answering the phone that way. I just say the Methodist Church of New Paltz when I answer the phone now. And I've started to, for the vigil that we did the other night, I put United in parentheses, right? But I'm curious how you guys are handling that.
Interesting.
See, personally, I think that's giving too much power to voices that aren't really affirmed yet.
Mm.
You know, I don't want to back away from calling it the United Methodist Church. And I am hopeful that we can still live with that language. And I'm not going to back away from it.
Right, but like, I'm not sure what I would have done, except that people came and basically said, like, this word is now a knife aimed at my heart.
Maybe that's the pain that challenges and galvanizes us to do something. Instead of simply saying, I'm hurting, and we are the victims of the certain conservative takeover.
Right. But how do we sheathe the knife?
Well, the truth of it is, we're not United Methodist or the church right now.
We are neither United, no Methodist, no church.
I couldn't agree more.
Depending upon... But then again, that's been always the church.
But that's what that was going to be my next breath.
Yeah.
I mean, on one level, that's the question before us every day.
Right.
That's the question before us every day.
It's like, am I a Christian, or am I becoming a little better Christian or worthy of the name I carry?
We always fall short of the title.
Right. Fall short of the glory, full glory of God.
But the pain is real. The pain that the word causes is real, and I think we have to be aware of that and sensitive to it. I've been talking a lot with my congregation about the difference between being a united church and a uniform church.
Thank you. That should be in the design. Thank you.
We're clearly not uniform, nor should we be.
Exactly.
This is my fear in all of this. I don't want to lose any of the voices of our denomination, even the ones I disagree with.
Exactly.
Vehemently disagree with. Being the church is a difficult and messy conundrum. I had a pastor who used to tell us that the church would be the craziest looking bunch of yahoos you've ever seen. And some days I look around and I'm like, yeah. And some days, like as I watched, my sisters and brothers in St. Louis, my heart just broke and I thought, is this us? Really? We can't be more than this? So it can be very discouraging, and yet I just keep telling myself, it's supposed to be messy. It never was clean and easy. Human beings, we like these nice, neat little categories. We like to put everything in its little box and put it on its shelf where it belongs, and life is just easier that way. And unfortunately, we're inclined towards ease. When given the choice, a lot of times people just pick the easiest way. I feel like, in a way, that's what happened with this traditional plan. It seemed easier to a lot of people. It's less messy. The way of inclusivity, full inclusivity, is going to be messy for our church, but it is so much richer, so much more beautiful to have that diversity.
I'm personally really wrestling with this, right? Because the knife isn't. I'm not the one being stabbed. So I may be standing behind the one who's being stabbed. I may be holding them, but the knife isn't in me. So I don't know that I get to say, right? Like if we're going to fight this fight and we're going to use LGBTQI people as our battleground, right? If we're going to put them in front of all the bullets, then when they say, I can't get shot anymore, don't we have to listen to them? They say, like, I can't live with this word anymore. Don't we have to listen to them? How can we... I don't understand how we can... I feel like we're splitting hairs, but they're not even our hairs. Like,
Yeah, that's
Well-
Messy and complicated.
to see their lives reduced to the topic of our debate.
Right.
Right. Well, and that's it. I mean, so consistently, over and over and over again, we hear the language of issue, where this is an
Deaf
issue.
people.
Homosexuality, issue of homosexuality in the church. It's not an issue. It's not something that exists up here in the realm of ideas. We're talking about individuals, human beings, people with names and families, people whose parents called them a sweet little name when they were a young boy or girl. You know, I mean, these are real, rich, complex human lives.
Do you think that people who maybe think that homosexuality is a choice, do you think that's how it got reduced down to being an issue, or made it okay to say, like, it's okay if you're gay, you can come to church, but if you decide that you want to be, you know, a part of the leadership or have, you know, a wedding or accept God, then you need to change?
You know, that's such a big question, you know, and it's because, so I think, you know, it would be impossible to kind of narrow it down to one thing. But what does seem to be a consistent factor is fear, you know.
Of the other and the different.
And so that what we do when we are afraid is we try to bring order to our world. And what we do when we are afraid is of other people is that we try to bring order. We come up with labels and categories and boxes where we can say, well, you are here, you go over here, and because of who you love, and you go over here because of the pigment in your skin, and you go over here because of your first language, you know, and so I think that there's this deep undercurrent that we are so prone to categorize people and label each other, and it's false. It's just false.
It's also just, it's one story, right? We want to parse this out, right? As if this isn't one story. But remember, this denomination started in 1968, and that was the same year that the Black Manifesto was thrown down in Riverside Church. And then suddenly, Christians went from, we'll march with you, to church is not political. Sit down and focus on your own personal holiness, which really meant we're not willing to go that far to include you. And when there was pressure, right, this issue wasn't quite enough to divide. Pick up this one. And that's part of why I say this is a proxy war.
Yeah, and you know, on the issues of dividing too, I think a lot of people, especially with outside, you know, perspectives into what happened in St. Louis and this issue, they're wondering, is this going to be something that divides the church? Mm-hmm. Like, are people going to end up, you know, St. Paul's right here, a historic, you know, church that's so entrenched in the community of Middletown. Is it going to continue to be part of the United Methodist Church?
United Methodist Church is only one of many Wesleyan churches. St. Paul's will always be a Wesleyan congregation. Whatever happens at the general conference level, St. Paul's will always be entrenched with the needs of the community surrounding the church. If we have 195 history of that. And St. Paul's, when I say that, it's same with all the churches that they are serving in their own locale. You know, be it Westbrookville, Ellenville, Warwick, New Paltz, Marlboro, now soon Poughkeepsie. It will be always that. What kind of denominational structure name that we end up belonging to is something that we cannot talk at this time into the future.
But if the worst case scenario, right, is that we split, I think it's really important to name that this might not be terrible news. In fact, this might be great news. If we split, then there is sunlight in here, right? You can't taste an apple until you bite it. We gotta open this up, and that's okay. So if the worst thing that happens is we stop and we do this very Wesleyan thing where we go, does this work? Does that work? I don't know. What if we try this? What if we try that? Chuck it, it didn't work. Then we have the ability to create something incredible and new and life-giving. And we're not mired down by a debate that we really don't need to have at all, right? We should be at a point where this is a non-issue. So great, let's move forward. Let's do the work of Jesus Christ. If we're smaller and more nimble, okay. I
feel like what this really revealed to us, this general conference, the divide is there.
Yeah.
There's no denying it. It is there, it is clear, it is deep, it is wide. What are we going to do with that? Do we believe there's potential to draw this back together? Is there some sort of way to build a bridge between these two worlds? Or do we just formalize what already exists? That's where we're at, is we're all trying to figure that out right now.
What is interesting though is when we split in 1850, I don't know the exact date. I think it's some shame on me. I should have known it better. It's 1850 and around that time. As soon as we split, we returned to get back together. It took about 80 some years to come back in 1939. Once we split, on this issue we may be humming and hawing, but all other mission issue, I'm sure will somehow work together.
Yeah.
And after some years, why do we divide on this issue? And we'll come together. And then the reactionary force will choose another dividing issue and we'll fight over it again. I mean,
if a new church starts, we're going to fight in that church too.
Yeah.
Like, that's the part of, like, this thing being messy. It's always going to be messy. And I would lament the loss of the voices of my more conservative brothers and sisters. I would lament that. I think we're a stronger church when we find the grace to disagree with one another well. We haven't done that. Like that this last conference, we did not disagree well.
No.
But you know, it's
That
kind
was
of
the most
interesting.
diplomatic way I could imagine putting that, Jody.
If you think of so many other denominations that have a high bar of entry, it's easier effectively there. You're told what to believe and you stick with it. And it's simple. This theological work is messy. And, you know, we bump and grind against each other and we hurt each other, but it's a more authentic conversation. And it's one where we value every person, including those people that we think need greater understanding.
Well,
that's because we are grace-based tradition,
Yeah.
not righteousness-based. And what happened at special conference is that righteous-based spirituality took over and put a real damp on grace tradition that we are. You know, Methodist Church is never this or just that. We are always both.
And still becoming.
Yeah, it's always becoming. And it's not conservative liberal. We are always liberal, meaning generosity.
That's another word, I think.
Right.
But-
We are generous. And we are not conservative. We are conserving of very important human dignity and traditions.
And, you know, the eye of the needle, right? What must I do to get into heaven? Here it is. But I don't want to. Okay. Like, the door will still be there. Like, Like, there will still be a light above the door will still be there. I will stand here and I will keep going like, welcome, welcome, welcome. And a lot of people are gonna walk right by and I'm gonna go, see you when you return. Like,
Yeah.
So message we want is this: no matter what you hear about the Methodist Church coming out of St. Louis Special Conference, there are equally strong traditions within United Methodist Church that are committed to welcoming and inclusion, based upon grace, and especially in the New York City area, in the region that Time Record Herald covers. Almost all Methodist churches, there are some exceptions.
there are some exceptions.
Yeah, I know that, you could name them. But almost all United Methodist churches are hurting and they are dying to let people know our stand on message of love has never changed. And we need partnership with you all to clarify what it means to be people of God who loves all. And we are still open minds, church of open minds, open hearts, and open doors. I mean, that has to be out.
At our leadership meeting this week, through tears, one of our members said, well, how are we going to make sure people know that we're a church that loves? How are we going to make sure people know that? And I would say the stakes got higher after General Conference, because most people who have news alerts on their phone got something from some outlet that means that we have to answer that question. That's always been the question, but we have to answer it in new ways now. And we have to answer it too, I think it's so important, with more voices at the table. You know, it's really wonderful, the diversity that just randomly appears for a gathering of United Methodist pastors, but there is some diversity we're missing today. And that really makes this conversation woefully inadequate, because we are missing the voices of our LGBTQ
Clergy,
sisters and
right,
brothers.
and the lay people.
And, yes, clergy and lay people. And so, so any conversations, you know, that we're having only in part.
Yeah, we're talking over the very people who, you know, like,
Right, and
maybe lovingly.